The bright lights of the command center flickered as Commander Min Park looked out at the vast emptiness of space. His ship, the HS Horizon, moved slowly toward the massive space station in the distance. This was humanity's first diplomatic mission beyond their solar system, and Min felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "Sir, we're approaching the galactic hub," said Lieutenant Du-1, his eyes fixed on the navigation screen. "Their traffic control has assigned us docking port 7. Min nodded. "Steady as she goes. Let's make a good first impression." The Horizon was humanity's pride, their most advanced vessel, equipped with the warp drive technology that had finally allowed them to reach the stars. Still, as they approached the alien station, Min realized how primitive their ship must appear to species who had traveled between stars for thousands of years. The space station grew larger in the view screen. It was unlike anything humans had ever built, a massive structure that seemed to float impossibly in space, with sections that moved and shifted like a living organism. Lights of colors Min had never seen before pulsed along its surface. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Subin. Her fingers danced across the console. "It's different from our previous contacts. It's requesting that you specifically meet their representative alone." Min raised an eyebrow. "Any indication of who they are?" "They identify as the Luminae, sir. According to the basic cultural data we received earlier, they're one of the oldest species in the galactic community. Very advanced, very mysterious." Subin hesitated. The other species refer to them as wish granters because of their technology. Min straightened his uniform. "Well, let's not keep them waiting." As the Horizon docked with the station, Min prepared himself mentally. He had trained for first contact scenarios for years, but meeting an ancient alien species that other aliens treated with reverence, that was beyond any simulation. The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss. Min stepped through into the station's docking bay and stopped in his tracks. The being waiting for him was tall and slender, with features that reminded him strangely of old Earth myths. Her skin, if it could be called skin, seemed to glow from within, shifting between subtle shades of blue and violet. She wore what appeared to be formal attire, though it moved like liquid around her form. "Commander Min Park of Earth," she said in perfect Korean, though her mouth didn't move exactly as it should for the sounds. "I am Neri, diplomatic representative of the Luminae. Welcome to Nexus Station." Min bowed slightly. "Thank you for the welcome. I admit I'm surprised you're speaking my language." Nari made a gesture that might have been a smile. "We find it courteous to adapt to our guests. May we walk? There is much to discuss." As they moved through the station, Min was overwhelmed by the diversity of life around him. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions moved through the corridors. Some floated, some crawled, others walked on varying numbers of limbs. The air was filled with strange sounds and scents. "This is incredible," Min said. "We knew we weren't alone, but to see so many different forms of life in one place. There are over 4,000 species currently represented on Nexus Station," Neri explained. "Some are members of the Galactic Council, others are visitors like yourself. Humans are among the newer arrivals to the interstellar community." They entered a quiet room with a view of space. The stars looked different from here, Min realized. Different patterns, different colors. "I requested this meeting because my people have an interest in yours," Neri said, gesturing for Min to sit on a cushion that adjusted itself to human physiology. "An interest? In what way?" Min asked cautiously. "Humans are unusual." Nari's inner light pulsed slightly. "Your development path has been unique. Most species either destroy themselves or stabilize into slow, steady progress. Yours has experienced multiple near collapses followed by remarkable leaps forward. It suggests a resilience we find intriguing." Min wasn't sure if that was a compliment. "We've had our struggles, certainly. The Luminae have a tradition," Nari continued. When we encounter a species of interest, we offer an exchange. We provide 3 technological gifts of their choosing, and in return, we ask for the opportunity to study certain aspects of their species. Ta Min's heart raced. That's quite an offer. What would you want to study about humans? Your emotions, Neri said simply. Humans feel with an intensity that registers differently than any species we've encountered. You experience joy, grief, love, hate, all with remarkable depth. We would like to understand this better. You want to study our feelings? Ta Min asked, surprised. Not our biology or technology. Those are simple matters of science, Neri replied. Emotional complexity is far more interesting. Ta Min thought for a moment. I would need to consult with Earth's leadership before accepting such an arrangement. Of course. Neri produced a small crystal sphere from within her flowing garments. This contains details of our proposal, including the limitations on what technological advancements we can offer. The Galactic Council has strict rules to prevent destabilizing leaps in capability. As Ta Min took the sphere, his fingers briefly touched Neri's hand. He felt a strange tingling sensation, and Neri's skin suddenly pulsed with a bright blue light. She quickly withdrew her hand, the blue glow fading. Forgive me. Direct contact with other species sometimes produces unexpected reactions. Ta Min nodded, though he sensed there was more to her reaction than she was saying. I'll review this information and speak with my government. How soon do you need an answer? Take the time you need, Neri said, composing herself. This is not a decision to rush. The gifts you choose will shape humanity's future among the stars. As they walked back toward the docking bay, Ta Min noticed how other aliens moved aside for Neri, some making gestures that seemed respectful or even reverent. Your species seems highly regarded, he observed. Age brings certain privileges, Neri replied. The Luminae were traveling between stars when most current species were still developing language. At the airlock to his ship, Ta Min paused. One question, if I may. Why us? Why now? Neri's eyes, if they could be called eyes, seemed to look through him rather than at him. Because in all our observations of humanity, you have consistently done the unexpected. In a universe bound by patterns, exceptions are valuable. As Ta Min returned to the horizon, he couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was the beginning of something much larger than a simple cultural exchange. Whatever humanity chose to do with the Luminae's offer would define their place in the galactic community for generations to come. Ta Min sat in the Horizon's communication room, staring at the holographic display of President Jeho. The quantum link to Earth created a slight delay, but the President's serious expression came through clearly. Commander, are you certain this offer is genuine? President Jeho asked, his forehead creased with concern. As certain as I can be, sir, Ta Min replied. The Luminae have provided credentials verified by multiple species on the station. Their reputation as wish granters seems well established. The crystal sphere Neri had given him sat on the table, projecting detailed information about the proposed exchange. 3 technological gifts in return for studying human emotions. It seemed too good to be true. What's the catch? Asked Defense Minister Hanna, who had joined the call from Earth. Advanced species don't simply hand over technology. According to the information provided, Ta Min explained, there are limitations. We can't request weapons designed specifically for offense. We can't request technology that would let us dominate other species. And all gifts must comply with Galactic Council regulations on technological transfer. Science Director June leaned forward on the screen. Even with those limitations, this could advance humanity by centuries. Ta Min nodded. I believe that's the intent. The Luminae seem to select species they find interesting and help them join the wider galactic community more quickly. And all they want is to study our emotions. President Jeho sounded skeptical. How would that even work? From what I understand, Ta Min said, they would place observers among us. They would participate in our daily lives, our activities, our celebrations, and mourning rituals. They would record emotional responses and analyze them. The Earth leadership fell silent, considering the implications. "We need time to discuss this," President Jeho finally said. "In the meantime, learn what you can about the Luminae and the other species. Find out if anyone has regretted accepting their gifts." Ta Min nodded. "Yes, sir." After the call ended, Ta Min left the ship to explore Nexus Station. The massive structure housed representatives from thousands of worlds, with sections tailored to different atmospheric needs and gravity preferences. In an area designed for oxygen breathers, he found something like a cafe. Various beings sat at tables, consuming foods and drinks that sometimes looked familiar and sometimes completely alien. A small furry creature with 6 limbs approached Ta Min. "First time on Nexus. You look lost." Its translator badge converted its chittering sounds into English. "That obvious, huh?" Ta Min smiled. "I'm Ta Min, from Earth." "Min Su, from Trading Guild 17. The creature replied. "Earth? Oh, you're one of the new bipeds. Come, join our table. My friends will be fascinated." Min Su led Ta Min to a table where 3 other aliens sat. One looked like a tall, thin humanoid with ridged skin. Another resembled a floating jellyfish. The third was a stocky reptilian being with bright scales. "Everyone, this is Ta Min from Earth. They're new to the station," Min Su announced. The aliens greeted him warmly, and soon Ta Min found himself in the middle of a lively conversation about trade routes and local politics. When he mentioned the Luminae, however, the table grew quiet. "You've met the Light Ones?" the reptilian being asked, leaning forward. "Yes, their representative Nari has made my people an offer." The aliens exchanged glances. "3 gifts?" asked the tall humanoid. Ta Min nodded. "You know about this." "Everyone knows about the Luminae and their gifts," said the jellyfish-like creature, its translator creating a melodic voice. "My species received their offer 400 cycles ago. We accepted." "Did you regret it?" Ta Min asked carefully. "No," the jellyfish replied. "The gifts helped us survive a solar expansion that would have destroyed our homeworld. But understand this, the Luminae never give exactly what you expect. They fulfill the letter of your request, but in ways you might not anticipate." As Ta Min was considering this, he noticed a familiar glow across the room. Nari had entered the cafe and was walking toward him. "Commander Park," she said with a slight bow. "I hope I'm not interrupting." The other aliens quickly made excuses and left the table, though Min Su lingered long enough to whisper, "Choose wisely, human," before scurrying away. Nari sat down across from Ta Min. "Have you had a chance to review our proposal?" "My government is considering it," Ta Min replied. "They have questions about the exact nature of the emotional study you wish to conduct." Nari's inner light pulsed gently. "Of course, we would embed observers among your people. They would experience your art, your celebrations, your conflicts, your resolutions. They would witness love, grief, joy, anger, all the complex emotions that make humans so unique. And these observers would look like you." Ta Min gestured at Nari's glowing form. "No, we can adapt our appearance." As she spoke, Nari's form shifted. The glow dimmed, her height reduced, and her features changed until she looked almost human, though still strikingly beautiful. "Is this less distracting?" Ta Min blinked in surprise. "That's impressive." Nari smiled, now with human-like expressions. "We have studied your physical form extensively through long-range observation. Your emotional responses, however, cannot be understood from a distance. They must be experienced firsthand. And what happens to this data you collect? It becomes part of the Great Archive, the collected knowledge of all species we have studied. It helps us understand the diverse ways consciousness manifests across the galaxy." Ta Min took a sip of his drink, buying time to think. "These 3 gifts, how do they work exactly?" You make your requests. We provide the technology in a form your species can understand and integrate. The first gift is typically delivered quickly, as a sign of good faith. The others may take longer, depending on complexity. And if we're not satisfied, that has never happened, Nari said simply. We fulfill the spirit of the request, though sometimes in unexpected ways. Tai-Min remembered the warning from the jellyfish alien, so I should be very specific in what I ask for. Precision is helpful, Nari agreed. Her human-like face showed a hint of amusement. But don't worry too much. We're not tricksters looking to twist your words. We genuinely wish to help emerging species join the galactic community. As they continued talking, Tai-Min noticed that Neri seemed particularly interested in his reactions to the other aliens around them. She asked detailed questions about how he felt seeing certain species, what emotions their appearances triggered. You've already started studying me, haven't you? He asked with sudden realization. Nari's temporary human features showed a slight blush. Observation is a habit of my kind. I apologize if that makes you uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable, just aware. A communication alert from Tai-Min's wrist device interrupted them. Excuse me, he said, reading the message. My government has additional questions. I should return to my ship. As they walked back toward the docking bay, Tai-Min asked, Why me? Of all the humans you could have approached, why choose me as your contact? Neri was silent for a moment, her form gradually shifting back to its original luminescent appearance. Because when we first observed your ship entering this system, you were the one who showed both curiosity and caution in perfect balance. Many species lean too far in either direction when encountering the unknown. You showed wisdom. At the airlock to his ship, Nari handed him another crystal. This contains more information about previous exchanges. It may help your people decide. Their fingers touched briefly during the exchange, and once again, Nari's skin pulsed with that distinctive blue glow. That reaction, Tai-Min said. What does it mean? Nari turned away slightly. It's simply how my kind responds to certain unexpected stimuli. Before he could ask more, she added, I look forward to your decision, Commander Park, and glided away. As Tai-Min watched her go, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever the Luminae's interest in humanity truly was, it might be more personal than either of them had admitted. 7 days had passed since the Horizon arrived at Nexus Station. 7 days of meetings, discussions, and careful consideration of the Luminae's offer. Earth's leadership had finally reached a decision, and now Tai-Min waited in a formal meeting room for Nari to arrive. The room was designed to accommodate multiple species, with various seating options and environmental controls that could change the temperature, gravity, and atmospheric composition in different sections. Currently, it was set to Earth standard conditions. The door slid open silently, and Nari entered. Today, she had chosen a middle ground in her appearance. Not fully human, but not as ethereally alien as her natural form. Her skin still had a subtle glow, but her features were more defined, more readable to human eyes. Commander Park, she greeted him with a slight bow. I understand your government has made a decision. Tai-Min nodded. We accept your proposal. 3 technological gifts in exchange for the study of human emotions. A pleased expression crossed Nari's face. Excellent. Many species deliberate much longer. Your people are decisive. We had many questions and concerns, Tai-Min admitted. But in the end, the potential benefits outweighed the risks. And have you decided on your first request? Nari asked, taking a seat across from him. Tai-Min took a deep breath. This moment would shape humanity's future among the stars. The discussion with Earth's leaders had been intense, with military officials pushing for defensive technology, scientists arguing for advanced medical or energy systems, and economists advocating for resource generation capabilities. Yes, he said firmly. For our first gift, humanity requests a universal translation matrix, technology that will allow us to understand and be understood by all known sentient species in the galaxy. Neri's reaction was immediate and striking. Her skin suddenly pulsed with intense blue light, spreading from her face down to her hands. Her eyes widened, and she seemed momentarily at a loss for words. "Is something wrong?" Ta-Min asked, concerned. "No, not at all," Neri said, her glow slowly subsiding. "I'm just surprised. This is not the typical first request we receive." "What's typical?" "Weapons systems, faster ship engines, energy technology." Neri's voice had a hint of what might have been admiration. "Basic survival and advancement tools. No species has ever requested communication technology first." Ta-Min smiled slightly. "We believe understanding must come before advancement. What good is having the fastest ships if we can't talk to the people we meet? May I ask how your leaders came to this decision?" Neri's glow had faded, but her interest was obvious. "It wasn't their decision," Ta-Min admitted. "They gave me a list of approved options and let me make the final choice. As humanity's first representative here, they felt I might have insights they lacked." "And what led you to choose translation technology?" Ta-Min gestured around them. "This station alone has thousands of species. In my short time here, I've seen so many misunderstandings, even with translator badges. I've watched aliens talk past each other, missing subtle meanings, cultural references. If humanity is going to find its place here, we need to truly understand others, not just exchange words." Neri's skin began to glow blue again, though less intensely than before. "This response is unexpected. Most emerging species focus on protecting themselves first. The best protection is understanding," Ta-Min said simply. Neri stood up, her movements graceful. "I will inform the Luminae Council of your request immediately. The translation matrix will require adaptation to human neural patterns, but we can begin the process today." "How long will it take?" Ta-Min asked. "For the basic system, perhaps 3 of your Earth days. Full implementation across your population will take longer, of course." Neri paused at the door. "Commander Park, your choice will be noted in the Great Archive. It speaks well of your species." After Neri left, Ta-Min sent a message to Earth, confirming that their first request had been made and accepted. He didn't mention Neri's unusual reaction. Something about it felt private, personal in a way he couldn't quite explain. The next morning, Ta-Min was invited to observe the creation of the translation matrix. He followed a Luminae guide deep into their section of the station, an area few non-Luminae ever entered. The technology laboratory was unlike anything he had seen before. Instead of machines and computers, it looked more like an artist's studio. Luminae technicians moved around floating spheres of light, shaping them with gestures and occasionally merging them together. "Our technology functions differently from most species," explained his guide. "We manipulate quantum structures directly rather than building physical interfaces." In the center of the room, Neri stood with 3 other Luminae. They were working together on a complex pattern of light that shifted and changed as they moved their hands through it. "Commander Park," Neri called when she noticed him. "Come closer. We're mapping human language centers to create compatibility." As Ta-Min approached, one of the other Luminae spoke in their native tongue, a musical language of rising and falling tones. Neri responded, and there seemed to be some disagreement. "Is there a problem?" Ta-Min asked. "Not exactly," Neri said. "My colleague June is questioning the wisdom of giving such advanced technology to a species so new to interstellar travel. It's not an uncommon concern." The Luminae called June studied Ta-Min with obvious skepticism. He spoke again, this time in accented English. "Why should we trust humans with the ability to understand all galactic languages? Some species have used this power to manipulate or deceive." Ta-Min considered his answer carefully. "I can't promise that no human will ever misuse this gift, but I can tell you that throughout our history, greater understanding has usually led to greater peace. The more we understand each other, the less we fear each other." June's skin flickered with patterns of light. "An optimistic view. A realistic one," Time In countered. Besides, if you're going to study human emotions, wouldn't you prefer to understand our words exactly as we speak them? This seemed to amuse June. He has a point, Nari, he said. Then, addressing Tom In directly. Very well, human. But know that this gift comes with responsibility. The work continued through the day. Occasionally, Tom In was asked to speak in Korean or English, to think of certain concepts, or to describe emotions while the Lumine observed the patterns of his brain activity through some invisible means. By the third day, the translation matrix was ready for its first test. What had begun as a complex pattern of light had been condensed into a small crystal-like object about the size of a coin. This is merely the control module, Nari explained. The actual matrix will interface directly with human perception centers. You won't need devices or implants. The understanding will simply be there. Time In held the crystal carefully. How does it work? It creates a field that aligns quantum states between different neural patterns. In simpler terms, it makes your brain temporarily compatible with alien thought structures. Nari's explanation made it sound simple, though Tan Min suspected the technology was far more complex than he could comprehend. Ready for the test? She asked. Tan Min nodded, and Nari activated the crystal. Immediately, a subtle shift occurred in his perception. The sounds around him, the hum of the station, the distant conversations of aliens in the corridor, suddenly made sense in a way they hadn't before. When June spoke in the Lumine language, Tai Min understood every word. Ask him what he feels. I feel like barriers I didn't know existed have suddenly fallen away. Tai Min replied in Korean, knowing they would understand him perfectly. Nari's skin glowed with that now familiar blue light. It works, she said softly. The first gift is delivered. Within weeks, the translation matrix had been implemented across Earth's colonies and ships. For the first time, humans could engage with the galactic community as equals, understanding nuances and cultural references that had been lost before. As reports came in about successful diplomatic missions and new trade agreements, Ta Min received a private message from Nari. Your wisdom in choosing this first gift has impressed the Lumine Council. They await your second request with interest. As do I. 3 months had passed since the translation matrix had been given to humanity. In that time, Earth had established diplomatic relations with 27 species and trading agreements with 15 others. The ability to understand all galactic languages had changed everything for humanity's place in the stars. Ta Min had become something of a celebrity among both humans and aliens. As he walked through Nexus Station's central plaza, various beings nodded respectfully or called out greetings in their native tongues, all perfectly understandable to him now. He was on his way to meet Nari for their weekly cultural exchange. The Lumine Observer program was in full swing, with 12 of their kind now living among humans on Earth and the colonies. Nari had remained at Nexus Station as the primary coordinator, and she and Tai Min had developed a comfortable routine of sharing information. Today, however, something was wrong. Tai Min could feel it in the station's atmosphere. Aliens were gathered around news terminals, their postures showing concern. Security personnel moved with greater urgency than usual. When he reached their usual meeting spot, Nari was already waiting. Her natural glow seemed dimmer than normal, her expression troubled. What's happening? Ta Min asked without preamble. The Vorax have attacked 3 outer worlds, Nari said quietly, including your colony on Proxima Centauri B. Ta Min felt his heart sink. Casualties. Unknown at this time. Communications are disrupted. Nari gestured to the seats, and they both sat down. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. As humanity's representative, you're invited to attend. Who are the Vorax? I've never heard of them. Nari's light pulsed with what Ta Min had learned to recognize as concern. They're a predatory species from the Outer Rim. They'd been dormant for nearly 2 centuries, but they seem to have entered an expansion phase again. What does that mean exactly? The Vorax are different from most sentient species, Nari explained. They don't build or trade. They consume. They move from system to system, stripping planets of resources and using other sentient beings as food or hosts for their young. Tan Min felt sick, and they've attacked a human colony. Yes, along with a Doraxian mining outpost and a Zhenli agricultural world. Nari leaned forward. The council meeting begins in 1 hour. I'll be there as the Lumine representative. The Galactic Council chamber was a vast, circular room with concentric rings of seating. Species were arranged by their membership status, with the founding races in the center and newer members in the outer rings. As an observing non-member, Tan Min was seated at the very edge. The Grand Speaker, a tall, tentacled being, called the meeting to order. We face a grave situation. The Vorax swarm has emerged from dormancy and begun aggressive expansion. 3 outer worlds have been attacked. Holographic images appeared, showing the devastation. Tan Min clenched his fists as he saw the human colony. Buildings torn open, fields burning. There was no sign of survivors. Our historical response to Vorax emergence has been strategic withdrawal. The Grand Speaker continued. We propose evacuating all vulnerable outer systems and establishing a defensive perimeter around core worlds. A reptilian delegate stood. The Carthids support this motion. The Vorax cannot be reasoned with. Protection of core populations must be our priority. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Tan Min watched in disbelief as species after species voted to effectively abandon the outer colonies to their fate. When it was time for non-member comments, Tan Min stood. The translation matrix allowed his words to reach every being present in their native language. Humanity cannot accept this plan, he said firmly. You're proposing to sacrifice billions of lives, not just human, but from many species, because it's convenient. It is not convenience, human, the reptilian delegate replied. It is survival. The Vorax cannot be stopped, only contained until they return to dormancy. Has anyone tried? Tan Min challenged. Has any unified effort been made to actually stop them? An uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. Neri spoke from the Lumine section. The human raises a valid question. In the 6 recorded Vorax emergences, no coordinated defense has been attempted. Because it would be futile. Another delegate shouted. The Vorax adapt to any weapon used against them. They evolve in response to threats. The debate continued for hours, growing increasingly heated. Finally, the Grand Speaker called for a vote. The result was overwhelming. 42 species voted to establish a defensive perimeter and evacuate what populations they could from outer systems. Only 3 voted against. As the council dispersed, Tan Min approached Neri. I need to speak with you privately. They found a quiet alcove away from the crowd. Tan Min's face was grim. Humanity wishes to use our second gift now. Neri's glow pulsed with surprise. Now, in the middle of this crisis. Because of this crisis, Tan Min corrected. The council has chosen to abandon billions to die. We won't accept that. What do you request? Neri asked quietly. Tan Min took a deep breath. Humanity requests defensive shield technology that can be adapted to protect any inhabited world, regardless of the species living there. Neri's skin flashed with bright blue light, stronger than Tan Min had ever seen before. Several passing aliens turned to look, surprised by the display. You would use your gift to protect everyone? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, not just humans. Everyone we can save. Neri seemed stunned. The Lumine Council must approve this request. It's unprecedented. How long will that take? Tan Min pressed. People are dying right now. I'll call an emergency session, Neri promised. Wait here. While Neri was gone, Tan Min received a message from Earth. President Jeho's face looked grave on the small holographic display. Commander, we've received reports from other colonies. The Vorax are moving faster than anyone predicted. They could reach the Sol system within months. Whatever you're planning, do it quickly. An hour later, Nari returned. Her expression was unreadable. "The Lumine Council has approved your request," she said. "But they wish to add something. The defensive technology will be more effective if it's implemented by someone who understands the Vorax biology. We happen to have such an expert." She stepped aside, revealing a tall, gray-skinned alien with multiple eyes arranged around an elongated head. "This is Quan, a xenobiologist who has studied the Vorax for 3 centuries. He has volunteered to help implement the shield technology." Quan bowed slightly. "The Lumine tell me your species wishes to defend others, not just yourselves. This is why I offer my expertise." News of humanity's plan spread quickly through Nexus Station. As Ta Min, Nari, and Quan worked to adapt the shield technology for various planetary environments, representatives from other species began to approach them. "The Zhenli wish to assist with distribution," said a plant-like being. "Our ships are fast and numerous. The Diraxians can provide raw materials for the shield generators," offered another. One by one, species that had voted with the Council began to quietly offer help. Not officially, their governments remained committed to the withdrawal strategy, but individuals and groups volunteered their resources and skills. As the first shield generators were dispatched to the most vulnerable worlds, Tai Min pulled Nari aside. "Why did you blush, or whatever that blue glow is, when I made the request?" he asked directly. Nari's skin pulsed lightly. "In all our history of giving gifts to emerging species, none has ever used one to protect others before themselves. It was moving. It was the right thing to do," Ta Min said simply. "And that," Nari replied softly, "is why you continue to surprise us." The planetary shields held. For 3 weeks, the Vorax hurled themselves against the barriers protecting the outer colonies, and for 3 weeks, they failed to break through. Their biological ships, massive living creatures that served as both weapons and transports, crashed against the energy fields in waves. On the observation deck of the HSS Defender, Tan Min watched the latest attack through the viewscreen. The Vorax ships were terrifying, writhing masses of tentacles and sharp, bony protrusions surrounding a central maw that could swallow smaller vessels whole. "They're adapting," noted Quan, the xenobiologist. His multiple eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the data. "Each attack is slightly different from the last. The shields will not hold forever." Neri stood beside them, her luminescent form dimmed to avoid interfering with the ship's sensors. "How much time do we have?" 2 weeks, perhaps 3, Quan replied. "Then they will find a frequency the shields cannot block." Ta Min nodded grimly. The defensive technology, humanity's second gift from the Lumina, had bought them precious time, but it wasn't a permanent solution. "Then we need to use that time wisely." "Is the Galactic Council still refusing to help?" "Officially, yes," Neri said. "But unofficially, more species join our coalition each day. The Zhenli have evacuated thousands from their outer worlds to safety behind the shields. The Diraxians have provided materials for reinforcement. Even the Carthid, who strongly supported withdrawal, have sent engineers to help maintain the shield network." Ta Min smiled slightly. "It seems we've started something. You've reminded many species of principles they have forgotten." Nari agreed, her skin pulsing with a soft blue glow. "Cooperation, protection of the vulnerable, standing together against threats." A communication alert beeped, and Ta Min activated the ship's holographic projector. President Jiho appeared, looking tired but determined. "Commander Park, Earth's Science Council has reviewed the data on the Vorax. They believe they found something important." "What is it, sir?" Ta Min asked. "The Vorax aren't naturally aggressive. According to the historical records we've been given access to, they spend most of their time in dormancy. Something triggers their expansion phases, something environmental." Quan moved closer to the projection. "This matches my research. The Vorax respond to certain stellar radiation patterns that occur cyclically. It activates hormonal changes in their biology. And if we could reverse those changes, The president's question hung in the air. Quan's eyes widened. Theoretically possible, but it would require delivery of a neural pacification agent directly into the Vorax neural network. Their ships are connected psychically. That's suicide, Taimin said. No vessel could get close enough to deliver such an agent. President Jiho nodded solemnly, which is why we're proposing to use humanity's third gift from the Lumine. We request technology to neutralize the Vorax aggression without destroying them. Nari's skin suddenly flared with brilliant blue light, so bright that the others had to shield their eyes. When the glow subsided, she looked shaken. I must consult with the Lumine Council immediately, she said, her voice unsteady. This request is without precedent. While Nari communicated with her people, Tanin and Quan continued studying the Vorax attack patterns. The xenobiologist pointed out subtle changes in their formations. See how they probe different sections of the shield. They're testing for weaknesses, learning with each attempt. Remarkable creatures, really. In their dormant state, they're peaceful filter feeders. Only during these expansion phases do they become the nightmare you see before you. If we succeed in neutralizing their aggression, what happens to them? Tamin asked. They would likely return to dormancy, Quan explained. Their ships would become dormant as well, drifting in space until the next cycle, which, without the hormonal trigger, might never come. The door slid open, and Nari entered. Her expression was solemn but determined. The Lumine Council has approved your final request, she announced. But with conditions. The technology can be created, but its implementation will require sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Tamin asked. The neural pacification field must be generated from within the Vorax neural network. Someone must carry the device into the heart of their fleet, to their command ship. A heavy silence fell over the room. A suicide mission, Taimin said quietly. Yes, Nari admitted. We cannot change that requirement. The physics are unyielding. President Jiho's hologram flickered. We'll call for volunteers. No, Taimin interrupted. I'll go. Commander. The president began to protest. It has to be me, Taimin insisted. I requested the gifts. I should be the one to see this through. Nari's skin pulsed with distress. Taimin, the chances of survival are virtually zero. I understand, he said calmly. But if it saves billions of lives, not just human, but all species threatened by the Vorax, then it's worth the cost. Over the next 5 days, the Lumine worked tirelessly to create the neural pacification device. It was small, barely larger than Taimin's palm, but according to Nari, it contained technology far beyond anything humanity could comprehend. Once activated at the heart of their network, it will spread a quantum field that interrupts their aggressive neural patterns, she explained. It doesn't harm them. It simply resets their biology to its dormant state. The plan was simple but dangerous. Taimin would pilot a small stealth craft, developed with technology from multiple species, directly into the Vorax fleet. He would need to reach the command ship, identifiable by its larger size and central position, and activate the device. The night before the mission, Nari came to see him in his quarters. You don't have to do this, she said. There are other species with better stealth technology, pilots with more experience in space combat. Taimin shook his head. Humanity asked for these gifts. We should be the ones to use them, even if it comes at a cost. Nari's skin glowed with that now familiar blue light. In all my years observing other species, I've never encountered one quite like humans. You're contradictory, capable of both terrible violence and extraordinary compassion. You're frightening and inspiring in equal measure. We're just doing what we believe is right, Taimin said simply. And that, Nari replied, is what makes you unique. The mission launched at what Earth would consider dawn. Taimin's small craft slipped past the defensive shields and headed directly toward the massive Vorax fleet. Thanks to the stealth technology, he made it halfway to the command ship before they detected him. Then everything happened quickly. Smaller Vorax vessels swarmed toward him. His ship took multiple hits. Systems failed one by one. But he kept going, pushing the engines beyond their limits, hurtling toward the massive central ship. The impact jarred him nearly unconscious. Warning alarms blared. The cabin filled with smoke. But Taemin had made it. His craft was embedded in the fleshy exterior of the Vorax command ship. With trembling hands, he activated the device. It pulsed with light, similar to Nari's skin, but with a gentle green hue. As the neural pacification field spread outward, the Vorax ships began to slow their frantic movements. One by one, they stopped attacking. Their tentacles relaxed. Their maws closed. As consciousness faded, Taemin smiled. He had succeeded. He didn't expect to wake up. But he did, in the medical bay of a Lumine vessel. Nari stood beside his bed, her glow brighter than he had ever seen it. How? He managed to ask. The Lumine Council made an unprecedented decision, she explained. We sent a rescue team after you. It was deemed that your actions merited intervention. In the days that followed, as Taemin recovered, news spread throughout the galaxy. The Vorax threat had ended, not through destruction, but through healing. The formerly aggressive creatures had returned to their dormant state, peacefully drifting through space. The Galactic Council called a special session. For the first time in its history, it unanimously voted to offer humanity full membership, an honor usually reserved for species with at least a millennium of interstellar presence. When Taemin, still weak but recovering, attended the ceremony, representatives from every species rose in respect as he entered. The Grand Speaker's words echoed through the chamber. Humanity has shown us a different path. Not abandonment, but protection. Not destruction, but healing. They have earned their place among us not through age or power, but through wisdom and compassion. After the ceremony, Nari approached Taemin. Her skin glowed blue, but she no longer seemed embarrassed by it. The Lumine have completed our study of human emotions, she said. Our observers will be returning home. And what did you learn from us? Taemin asked. That emotions are not weaknesses as many species believe. They are strengths. Your compassion drove you to protect others. Your courage led you to sacrifice for them. Your hope made you find a solution when others saw none. Nari's glow intensified. The Lumine Council has voted to establish a permanent cultural exchange with Earth, the first such exchange in our history. Taemin smiled. I think we have much to learn from each other. Yes, Nari agreed, her blue glow radiating outward. We do. As they looked out at the stars, humanity's place among them seemed brighter than ever before, not because of the gifts they had received, but because of the choices they had made with them.